Everybody. Well, welcome to the Dutchman's Wood Shack, where everything sawdust happens. Ah, can't see that, can you? All right, so coffee. We're gonna do coffee with the Dutchman today, but I gotta figure out a better place to put my camera. All right, so see, this is where I'm kind of antiquated. I don't have half the stuff everybody else does, and it's kind of biting me in the butt. Stinsky. Okay, so what I'm doing today is I'm going to do a couple of things. First off, I am the Dutchman. I am Dutch. My family lives in Holland. A lot of them, not all of them. And my wife's actually in Germany. So there you go. What I'm working on today is a couple of things. One is this thing. I'm going to finish this, but I have to take and sand this off, and then I got to figure out what I'm going to do for the top. Now, normally I put on a finish. It's a wipe on poly or something like. It's supposed to be a what do you call this? Offset turned box, but it turned out funky. All right, so what my idea was maybe today is to take and cut this in half. This is going to be salt shaker, and this will be a pepper shaker. But I have to find out what size hole to drill. Those caps, I don't know where to get them, but the caps that you use to plug it up when you put the salt in there, I'm gonna. Anyway, I gotta find out where you get them. So what I'm working on today is this. This right here. Okay, so the idea is to take and put, once I cut the corners off, all right, what I want to do is turn this to fit inside this. Now, the reason why I haven't taken this off is because I'm still designing this there. I'm still designing this thing, and I don't know if this is going to work or not. It's a science experiment. The one thing I got going for me here is that I've got all this extra wood, so I can fool around with it. So the idea for me is to make it so that this little lip here, I think it's like a half an inch thick. I want it to go from this side to this side on the outside, and so that it rings around this. This is going to be designed. I have to go down the edge a little, about an eighth of an inch, to make the tenon for this fit in there. In other words, the ledge, when I carve this out in the middle, this ledge from this has to fit in here. That's the idea. Don't know. It's in my head. I don't have a drawing, but that's what I got to do. Now, two things I had to do is I had to glue these together. And there's a couple of things you ought to know about it. Okay, one is the grain for this is all going this way. So the cut ends are here and here, right? And that's always going to be a problem when you go to sand stuff. So it creates burrs. Hopefully your tools are sharp. I know some of mine aren't. So I have to change the heads out on my gouging tool. The second thing is when I go to do this, I have to cut a little bit off the corners. And the reason is if I don't do that, whatever tool I'm using, you want to make sure that you don't chip the edges. Now this is a softwood. It's actually walnut. And I have a lot of it, so I thought I'd use a couple of pieces. And and I do have glue on the end of this. Now, I could take it to a joiner and clear off all this, but by the time I turn it and stuff, it won't matter because that'll all go away. And if it's a problem, then I'll deal with it one way or the other. So that's the object of the game today. But safety first, okay? I've always been an advocate of this. And sometimes I kind of break the rules a little bit, but I want to show you. I actually need to get a newer one. This one's kind of old. You should wear this, even if you're sanding, because and I'm known not to sometimes, which is not a good idea. But the reason I say wear this, I don't know if I have my other ones here. Is because what happens is, I have my other one somewhere. Why do I have it? Anyway, it's because if something comes off, I already broke my nose enough times. I don't need to do it again. It's not going to destroy your face. The second thing is, this. You should wear this too. A lot of wood has a lot of particles in it that might have something that aggravates your lungs. And I have an issue with lungs. My inhaler. Actually, I had two. I don't know why I'm walking around with two. Okay, so I have a little bit of an asthma thing. So, but 3 and 4 things too. There's a third one and a fourth one. Third one is always have a fire extinguisher. Always. The problem with a lot of people nowadays is they don't have fire extinguishers. Now you got to know there's certain ones for wood and materials, certain materials. There's certain ones for grease, and there's certain ones for oil. Do not, if you ever get a grease fire, don't throw water on it. Do not throw water on it. I actually have a blanket. Believe it or not, it's a fire blanket, and it's probably big. I had an issue with a grease fire one time, and I threw that thing on top, and it went right out. But you should contact your fire department and ask them which is the best for you. Electrical fire, same thing, different. So, and it'll tell you on here, gives you all the information how to operate. You take this and you break it and seal. Now, it does have, these things do have expiration dates on them. It's this little arrow here. There's a green arrow there. As long as it's in the green, you're okay. All right. The other thing is this. Now, why am I holding this up for? It's because of this. Okay, so this is where I put my greasy rags. Or my whatever rags. I have one in here and I have one in the garage. Why? Okay, so, well, here's my other glasses here. When you're, and this is the main cause of fires. Now, I'm an ex-wildland firefighter, also building fires and all that. Okay, so I'm going to get kind of crazy. Okay, there's 2 things that you should do is every day at the end of the day, you put your stuff in there and close it. It's airtight. Spontaneous combustion does happen. And I've seen it. I've been there. I've lived it. You don't want to be the person where everything goes up in smoke. It's one of the common factors of fires in a shop. That dust. So I got an air filtration system there. And I also I have a vacuum system here, a Powermatic vacuum behind the camera. And keep them running when you're working all the time. This lathe here, it makes the most anybody else has. Okay. It's got to be the dustiest tool I've ever had in my life. This thing. Down here on the floor, you want to keep it in the minimum. Because if I'm working on it, you see down there, So my idea here is to start cleaning this up. Before I even do anything, I should clean this up. Now, I have an electrical box back here, so I got to be sure that I don't have an issue with that. I'm constantly cleaning that out. But I have to get a cap that goes on it so that I can have the wires free from dust. So when you're in a confined space, the idea is to ventilate. Unfortunately, I can't here because I'm in a basement. There's no windows. So I do the best I can, and I keep it down to a minimum. So the two things that make the most sawed, well, actually three, that's everything introduced. My table saw, that, and my radial arm. This thing is a beast too. And here's the thing. Again, safety first. Every time something happens to somebody, it's because they're not paying attention or asleep at the wheel. Been there. But accidents do happen. So, okay, so it's like this. Okay, so the idea is don't wear long sleeves. If you do, roll them up or figure out a way to keep them there because they can get cut. If you have a chunk on here and the teeth are opened up at any point, they can do the same thing. Rings. I don't wear my rings because this will bite you. Sanding. A lot of times when I'm doing bark bowls, if I don't take the bark out, flipping around, it'll hit me on the side. So sometimes I've worn gloves, but it's tricky because you don't want to get it caught again. So you got to be careful. I've actually come up with this idea of putting duct tape. No, I love duct tape. I've got a whole bunch of it, different colors. And the story behind that I will talk about later, but it's how you use your tools. You don't want to overuse them. You don't want to abuse them. The second you start abusing a tool is when it's going to bite you in the butt. So I did it on my table saw once too. So here, I'm going to move you back further so you guys can see what I'm talking about. Okay, so my table saw is here, right? When I was using this last time, I shouldn't say last time. I was doing a job for a guy. I was cutting a piece of Christmas tree. It was a pine stump. They'd cut them out. There's a guy, when they do Christmas tree, they leave stumps at, the ends you cut off your Christmas tree before you bring it home. And I was cutting it, and what happened was it got bound up between here and here. Not a good idea. And what happened was it grabbed me like this. It nicked my finger. So it's coming this way. When I'm coming this way, it nicked my finger. It just barely touched it. I took part of my fingernail off. Not a good idea. Not a good idea. You're better off putting it in a vise and using a reciprocating saw to cut it. If not a chainsaw, preferably a chainsaw. But if you don't have one, or just don't do it. They gotta fix this thing. Yeah. Now this is a portable Craftsman table saw, 10-inch table saw. I have issues with it. But another thing is, if you're going to use this table saw, don't make sure if you change the blade on it, take and unplug it. Never plug it in. And this is how you change it, like this. So you get to it this way. You can also flip it up upside down if you want to take it off this. Sometimes when I clean it, that's what I do, is I use a vacuum cleaner to vacuum out, and then I blow stuff out. The other thing is, when you're working on your tools, whatever tool it is, now this is run by an electric motor and it's got bearings in it. So you want to take and flip it around and upside down. If you've got an air hose, blow the air hose out. Now, remember, when you're doing this, if you're in a shop, then take and turn your air purification system on and your vacuum on, because what happens is it goes everywhere. If you're not and you're outside, take it outside on the grass, flip upside down and blow the air through it. Why? Because if you get all the sawdust that's in there and the windings out, it saves your bearings. It's kind of, sawdust can be like sandpaper, and it can, after a while, it wears on your bearings. And if you want to keep or preserve your tools, that's another way of doing it. I always use a vacuum cleaner, which is over here, and the air hose. And I go back and forth a couple of times, enough to get all the sawdust out and clean it up. Then you want to go in there and work on all the inner workings. There's some stuff, lubricants you can put on them. This one's got like a screw type thing. Unfortunately, one of the gearing shaft is bound up, so I have to grab it to pull it up, and then like this. So then, you know, when your table saw like this is pretty easy. This is an old one. I don't know, maybe 20 years old, 15, 20 years old. It runs good. It's not the best, but, you know, if you're out and about, when I used to be a contractor, I used to run around with this thing, and it gets beat up pretty easy. If you're in a shop and you're not moving around, the bigger table saws are better. So, you know, this thing gets beat up. The one thing I can tell you that I'm not happy with is these things. Okay, so the reason why is if you put a straight edge on here, you see how it leans? The problem with stuff like this and like this, which I've beat up already, bent, is it's not solid. Okay, so, and I don't think there's one out there. I don't think there's a portable one out there, whether it be DeWalt, Ryobi, Cobalt, this Craftsman or whatever, is going to be that way. You want portability, but sometimes it could be cheesy on the, you know, ends. So you have to figure out your own way of doing stuff. And there's a lot of different ways. Okay, so I'll put this back in here. Now, when you do that, you know, I would recommend using gloves. This thing is dull. Change your blade off, and if you see when you're cutting a piece of wood like this, if it's not straight and it's chipping, then you need to change your blade. And plus, depending on the blade, what you're cutting. If you're cutting plywood, you don't want that kind. You don't want this kind of blade. You want the finer blade, because plywood chips. It's manufactured wood, so to speak. It's basically particles, you know, from bark and pieces of tree they don't use normally. So table saws are pretty easy to maintain, especially portable ones. You can take and flip it around and do all kinds of stuff to it. But again, make sure that you unplug it. The third thing is this. You know, I don't even know if I can get it out. If you have kids around, make sure you put these somewhere. Take them out. Just in case. Take them out. You don't want anybody moving stuff around. Take these safety devices out and put them somewhere. Lock them so it can't get to it. You never know. Now, this one's got a circuit breaker right here. All right. Number one issue with some of these is the circuit breaker, when you overheat them, will pop. That's the problem with my thickness planer. I can't figure out why it keeps popping. After it gets warm, it pops. So, who do we have out there? Mary Pat! I saw the bags. You know, you didn't miss anything. It got pretty wet last night, but now my sprinkler system's broken, so I got to find a sprinkler guy. So whatever's next, you know, things have been going south around here. Can't get anything done on the bathroom. It's just, anyway. Safety rules, again, make sure there's enough room to get around your device. No, I'm not. ET, what is that short circuit? What was that? What was that robot they had, that cartoon or whatever, that movie, Short Circuit? Oh. Anyway, yeah. So as far as doing stuff on the lid, you keep everything clean all the time. Obviously, I haven't done that because yesterday I was cutting, so I was busy. Anyway, I was cutting up jokes. I was just sawing them up dead, sawdust them dead. I got kind of bored. They always said I was screwy. I was laughing so hard I was pounding a hammer on the tabletop. I'm such a cut up. Okay, so you could keep your top really shiny sometimes, and you're gonna laugh. I put car wax on this before, so that the wood slides off it. So, but don't do Jeff, because look I've used this for everything. I was bad with this when I was doing contracting. I used to use this for everything because I couldn't find anything. There's no excuse for that. Okay, so anyway, now what I like about this though is I can slide it under my bench. It's supposed to be my workbench, my design bench, but it's kind of a catch-all. Okay, so that's good. That works. If I didn't have that on there, I could flip it sideways. I mean, and I may do that too, but I've got a can over here with wood in it. I've always got wood everywhere, so. Okay, so that's pretty easy. That's pretty simple. This thing here will bite your butt. Everything in here is the same way. Okay, so this is that compound miter saw. What do they mean by compound miter saws? Well, you could flip it this way, or I could flip it this way. So in other words, I could do it 2 ways. So I want to do a 45, maybe. Oh, come on, loosen up. Loosen up, come on, chill. You go that way. I could actually go the other way too, but I prefer this way anyway. So you get it set up that way. So when you cut for when you're doing like baseboards or anything you need a 45, you want to use this. Okay, then you got that. Now the problem, you see how my blade's hitting that bench side here? That's what these are that's what these are here for, to move. And it's a safety thing, so that you don't, when you're cutting a piece of wood, it doesn't kick into it. But you move these things in, just the top ones, the bottom ones stay permanent. So you could go like this. Now the other thing is you can go back and forth with this pretty easy. So when you go to cutting wood, you can lock it in place from this thing. Again, safety factors. When you're doing this, if you're doing a small piece of wood, it's highly recommended you use clamp. Now there's a clamp right here, which is sometimes kind of worthless. I can move it on either side, but I use my small clamps like this, so I can clamp the wood that way. Sometimes, depending on where this thing is set up, I can clamp it this way too. And then you make a jig to make it fit. Get the jig to make it fit. All right, so that's that. Now, it's got different things. It's got a light. When you plug it on, I can turn the light on and off here. The one thing you don't want to do, and with most wood that I cut, is I keep it all the way over here and lock it. It's got a pin here to lock it down. So if I want to get it out, and I go like that. Again, when you're working on your saw, don't have this plugged in. Okay, so this will swing 45 this way, and this will swing 45 this way. So actually 50. You go 50. But here's the thing. The further you go this way, you're making whatever cut narrower. Now, if you get to the point where you have to make some really tight cuts and it has to be like a sliver, this is where the jigs come in for these things. You can make a jig that sits on here and you can cut it. 50 is about as tight as you're going to go. But you could actually, if you make a jig, there's one where you could buy if you don't want to make it, where you can move it and you can actually get like a 60-degree angle on it. But again, it's a mess. You got to be careful what you're doing. When you're doing stuff like this, you got to be absolutely clear. Make sure everything's around. Oh, the other thing is, I always say carry first aid kit too, in case you cut your finger off. No, I shouldn't say that. I don't want that there. I've been enough wrecks. So then when it comes to cleaning it, I suck everything out of here. And the other thing is, I suck it in here. I kind of suck at everything, you know. All right, my job sucks. My job really sucks, you know. Anyway, I take this, I clean it out, put the hose on the end of it, clean this all out, then I suck all this out, and then I take this, when I go through here like this. There are points that you need to clean up. The one thing I already broke on this, which was right off the beginning, is the boot. See that? That's the one thing you'll find out when you're cutting stuff and it does this. It likes to get clogged up in this pipe here. And I had a piece of wood kick back on me one time and take this little rubber boot out of here. So for some reason, I always have this problem. My other one outside is the same way. So I actually had a piece of my other one where the guard was off. Don't take the guard off. Don't take the guard off. I have the other one. I have the guard I have to put back on it, but don't ever take the guard off. No. That's the other thing. That's what this plastic guard is on here for. Safety. You know, read your manual from top to bottom and read it a couple of times. If you ever have a problem with this, DeWalt's a great company. They'll help you out with any kind of problems and procedures you need to do. You just call their number, whatever it is. I'd say call their 1-800 number, but it's not 1-800 anymore. Although I should have 1-800 the Dutchman. So anyway, this is pretty easy to move around. I put it on, I don't have extensions on it. You know, most people have this big shop and they have that on the end of, ideally that on the end of the bench, so when you're pushing wood through it, it goes straight across instead of falling off to an abyss. That's what those small things are that you can pull off the back of it. But like I say, I bent the thing off of it once. I guess it was in the back one time when it got slammed up against the back. It bent the rail in the back. And I'll probably get a piece of steel and redo that. But yeah, you're better off having your table saw somewhere with a thing on the back of it. If you're cutting plywood, that thing's a booger to cut plywood on because of this. So normally I take that bench out and I'll move it and I'll put it up against the bench and just run it over. That's where it's supposed to be. Same thing with this. If you look at everybody that has a shop, this is up against the wall somewhere and it's got to run all the way across. So if you're cutting pieces of wood like this in a long run, you don't have to worry about it going, you know, on here. But again, in your shop, you know what, you can make the jigs to make it work. The jig's up. God, Jesus, the jig's up. Okay, so that's my 3 most used tool in here. All right. So, and I have to make everything portable because I don't have any room. Now this is my thickness planer, and I'll get into that and the bandsaw and the joiner later at another time. But I wanted you to see what I'm doing. in the shop, safety is always first, no matter what. If it takes time, fine. Some of the tools, in fact, I say none of them should be using gloves. None of them, you should not be using gloves. So, because what happens is, if you get caught in it, I always see this on TV, some stupid 9011 movie or something. They got a guy caught in there, and with his gloves, his hand, it's all munched up. You don't want that. Things do happen. If you're if you feel dizzy, if you feel like you don't want to do this, you're tired, don't do it. You'll end up in a 911 in the hospital. And I'm an ex-fireman, so I can tell you I've seen it. So, yeah, Mary Pat says you can't break a circuit. Yeah, I'm pretty much it. So, having said that, I'm going to get to work, and I've got to cut this off. And I'll show you what I'm doing real quick. I like to put, I have this one hose I put on here. The only bad part about using this vacuum is I got to figure out a different way to set it up, because okay, so now I want to set this thing up. So what I'm going to do is push this thing back. Since I'm cutting a small piece of wood, I don't want it moving on me. So I'll put it here. Now I'm ready to go. What I'm going to do here is pull that. Okay, so glasses first. Oh, these are my Makecation glasses. Maker's Science. These things are 19, these are 2015 glasses. Got this at a Maker's Fair for Craftsman Tools. They've had them ever since. They're great tool. Okay. So this you want to do. Now, if you want to wear this, the other thing is I'm going to turn this on too, because I will be making noise. Okay, so now what I'm going to do here is I want to cut just a little bit off of the corners, because I don't want to have square corners when I'm cutting it, or when I'm turning, because they like to chip. So what I'm going to do is turn this to a 45. 45. There you go. Sometimes this stupid thing is a nuisance, so okay, so that's 45. Now I'm just eyeballing it because I don't want to cut too much off. They're not exactly square in the corner here, but I didn't plan on it being that way, so. Okay. Now, don't touch anything. That's the other thing. When you go down, stay down. Well, see, I didn't. Okay, so what I'll do is another one here. That's what you're supposed to do. Jeff, how come you don't do that? Okay. The reason why is kickback, it'll shoot it out. And I've had a couple of times where this scrap would go back there and it kick back in the blade and come back at you, So I got one that's a little bit out of whack. I have to redo that. There you go. See, it's a habit you don't want to get into, like that one I just did earlier. So that's good, right? Now I didn't use my new. So now that I got this, right? So two things I could do, since it's not completely square. This is off a little bit. Do I care? No. I mean, I could run it on the table saw and just cut that sliver off, but yeah. Now, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll go like this. not using it, whenever you leave the room and you're not using it, the plugs are turned off. Now a lot of guys have this directly wired in their shop. And it's kind of cool, but again, safety first. If you got grandkids running around, make sure you got everything unplugged enough to where you can't turn it on. Because I know kids will go around and start pushing buttons. Don't turn the red, Jeffrey, don't turn the red button, don't. I got that when I was a kid. Don't do that, you know. So, okay, so now we got that. All right, so got to bring you guys over here because I got to show you this. Now, it's probably going to be offset here on this. We'll see. You know, the way this thing is set up, it shows it's backwards. You know, the way the pictures, I don't know. It's weird. Anyway. Okay, so now you kind of pick out which side you want the front to be the bottom and the top. Now, this is the bottom and this is the top. Okay, so, and that's the other thing, when you make something, especially a bowl. I picked out, when I did this, I picked out the bottom and the top. And there's two reasons why. One is, if you doing a big bowl, you can put a device on here. If you're doing a bigger bowl and you put that on the side, you're going to gouge out. Now, why is that? Well, if you put screws on your bottom, you got a hole. It's kind of a holy. It's kind of like original saying. Think about it. You put screws on the bottom, then you take them out, then it's kind of holy, right? Just saying. You could do it spindle-wise, right? The big thing is, now the reason I didn't do it on this one, because it's not that thick. It's only like 1 3/4 inch thick. And those screws that I put on there are a little bit long, so. And this isn't going to be bad because I'm going to turn this is going to be a mortising thing. I'm going to have a mortising tenon. It'll be enough to put on a chuck that goes on here. So what I'm doing here is I'm trying to get the best for the bottom. In this case, I'm going to be the best at the top because when I make this, it's got to be enough to want to be, you see, this is going to be the bottom and this is the top. So obviously the top's a little bit skinnier, so they go like that. That's my plan. Okay, that's my plan. I don't know how it's going to work. So we'll see how this works. Anyway, now I want to go that way. And I'm not worried about the bottom because the inside I've got to gouge out anyway. So I have to disconnect all my stuff. And then the other thing with this lathe is I like to keep it extended a little bit because it gives you a little bit more working room. Alright, so. Oh yes, the spinorama. This will be carved out, so. Now, the idea is you want to make sure that you're standing off to one side because you flip it on and it decides to go wacko on you. You're more likely not to get hit over here. Now, a lot of times, and I can see right there, it's like this, but I'm not worried about that because I've got to take it roundabout. So now, which am I going to do this? I'm not looking for perfect, so I'm still working on the design here. So I don't know how this is going to fly. Now, Made that like that. So what I'm going to do is try to work on shaping this sides first. Now the two things that will happen to you when you're doing this, I'm not going to go back and forth like this as much as I want to round this off. It'll chip, and that's the reason why I cut the corners off. I cut the corners. I cut the corners. Get it? I cut the corner? No, never mind. Anyway, that's the reason why I'm going to do this. Now, some of my tools are a little bit dull, so I don't know how this is going to fly. Now, if you see, yeah, this is a little bit dull, but the end grain on this. See, this is the side grain, and this is the end grains, right? It's burning up in here, but that's common when you're doing that. Now, what I want, my goal here is to make this all flat. Not so much this, but everything is equal. Now, see, like I say, this is not a tool that you want when you want to keep clean. I do have bib, but it doesn't matter. Okay, so this is a little off. I can take it on the table saw and cut it a little bit, but I don't want to. So I usually take it on something. But what I'm going to do is I'm trying to round it as best I can and see where it goes from there. So the one thing I can tell you is, in your plan, in your head, how do you want this to be? Now, I'm oddball because it just comes out, whatever comes out. But most of my bowls, I'd say 90% of them, when I get them on here, I do not know how it's going to work. And I think most guys that turn probably will say the same thing. Experiment. Now, if you're trying to make some kind of a project like an art piece, I tell people, you want to make a prototype, like the one thing I do is when I'm making furniture, for instance, I've got two things I do. Now this is my jig. This is my jig for my last table I made. So that's exactly where I want my holes to be drilled, for where I'm either going to put a screw in or a tap or something and this is basically, this is the first leg. I did 5 legs. This is my prototype leg. Okay, so I had an issue with this, so I had to fill it in a little bit. But the idea with this, there was 2 things that were wrong. One is this was supposed to be squarer, more square, and it's a little off at the top, but that's fine. But this is what, when I'm making a leg, the idea is this is exactly where I want the holes to line up for what I was making. You make a jig, it's a prototype. So, and I could still use this leg, it's not a problem. I could take and drill this back out and put dowel rods in there. The idea was this was supposed to be more square. This is the reason why I tell people when you plan it, I can thin this out a little bit more. The table's upstairs in my hallway. Turned out magnificent. Best. I had a guy yesterday see that. He said, that's pretty awesome. It's what another contractor. I said, I like making. I'd make a bunch more, but I don't know if I could sell them. And they're not going to be cheap because it's a lot of time involved in it. But you want to make a jig. So it was supposed to, you see how that turns? It was not supposed to turn. Because when I did this, and I made corrections on my other one, so it's fine. That's why you always make one prototype, and whatever mistakes that you have on that, you correct it on the other ones. And I love it. I mean, the leg itself, the taper I made all that on here. It's kind of tricky. The problem with the mini lathe, and most of these, this thing's from here to here. It's typically used for, this one here was typically used for making pins and smaller things. I got the extension, but like the Powermatics and the Novas and Jet, they're all longer, and they all have different things. 2015. This is 2015. So it works perfect. Do I want to get rid of it? No. Why? Okay, so I have this idea. All right. It's like my truck. I got a 2017 Ford Expedition. Runs like a top. Okay, it's 2017. So I got a question for you guys. Do you guys go out and buy a brand new car every 8 or 10 years? You know, why? If it runs good. Here's the other thing. I got a 19, Mary Pat knows this, 1966 Mustang. 66. It's as old as I am, almost. Runs great. Why do I want to trade it? Do I want a 2026 Mustang? What for? Get you where we want to go. See, I'm old. I don't need all the fancy gadgets. And that's what drives me nuts. I changed this. This is right here. All I do is flip this, move it down and up. No problem. It takes me 5 minutes. The new ones, I get it. They're more advanced. They get turned down. I think this goes as low as 600, 650, and it goes up to 4,000 with it. Now I'm never going to turn anything 4,000. 2 reasons. One, 4,000, you're getting into the metal territory. I can turn metal if I wanted to. You have to have something at 4,000, in the thousands range, to turn something with steel or some other product. It might plastic. I think you can do recycled plastic on there. I don't know. Anyway, I've never tried it. Don't want plan on it. If I do metal, it's a whole. You can't do it in here. I can't. It goes everywhere. It's a mess. I've done it. Machining. My next door neighbor, I just give it to him and he does it because he's a steel guy. He makes molds. Joe. What do you know, Joe? Okay, so anyway, I'm gonna get off, take a break, go get some more coffee, and I'm gonna do some design work, and I got some other stuff I gotta do. I've got a meeting tonight, Windy City Turners. Now, if you're local in Illinois, you wanna join, let me know. There's a great bunch of guys. We meet in Naperville, which is actually up the 88, which is, it only takes me about 40 minutes to get there. It's an easy drive, no problem. But I'm in, you know, if you're in the Foxville area, you want to hook up with me, I'd be glad to take you, introduce you guys. They're a great bunch of guys. I learn off them all the time. And they'd be happy to have you. They're looking for people to torture. I'm looking for people to torture. I want people to come down. I'll teach you for free how to do this. So, I love doing it. Anyway, Mary Pat knows it. She's my best client. Mary Pat and Greg are my best client. So, and they're loyal supporters. So, anyway, I'm going to let you guys go. Happy Tuesday, or happy Wednesday. It's Weird Wednesday. It's here. I'll say Weird Weather Wednesday, because we got it's raining, thunderstorms everywhere. And I got some work to do that I can't do because it's a mess in the back. So anyway, God bless. You guys have it. Do yourself a favor. Make some sawdust. Be creative. Make your mind expand and make your own thing. Don't let anybody else tell you what to do. God bless.